Hello everybody, Peter the Book Lover here for another video for your viewing pleasure. And this is my cat Layla. Isn't she beautiful? She's my Cinnabon and I love her very much. And today we're going to talk about this book right here. And trust me, this one's a good one. But before I do, I want to ask you, if you can, please hit the like video if you enjoy the content. And if you can, let me know what you think in the comments. Please let me know what you're reading. I'd love to hear what you're reading, and let me know how you are and anything else. I'm very happy to hear from people that watch my videos. So now, before I get into this book, I'm going to explain that I'm doing a challenge right now. The challenge is where I'm going to read 100 books from my collection before I buy any more books. And this is a really good idea because it really inspires me to read a lot of books from my collection. I'd be doing this anyways. I do this anyways, but this way I'm kind of doing a countdown to 100. And I'm at book number 30 now. This is the 30th book that I've read of the challenge, and it's going along really well. I really enjoy it. Now, this one was a really good one. Now, this one is I Survived the Chicago Fire of 1871, and this is by Lauren Tarshish. And this is the 4th book that I've read in this book series, and this was really wonderful. Now, what's really interesting about this book is at the end of the book, she talks about the books that she read to get the information to put this book together. And she mentions one book in this at the end, and that is a book that I already read, The Great Fire by Jim Murphy, and that was a really excellent book, and I really enjoyed it. But then she made this book, and this is excellent. This is my favorite book on the Chicago Fire so far. So this is a story of Oscar Starling. Oscar Starling lives in Minnesota, I believe, and he's on a farm, and his father has died, and it goes into the past about his father. His father actually spent some time as a sheriff, and there is a person that he had, there's a story that's told to him about his father that relates to what happens later in this book, and it was really interesting on how this all got brought together. And his father died by freezing to death. He got stuck out in the wilderness during a cold season. He wound up freezing to death. And his mother has been single for some time, but then she meets Mr. Morrow. And Mr. Morrow turns out to be an excellent person, but she starts really liking Mr. Morrow. Mr. Morrow is an artist that's illustrating her farm. He's doing paintings of her farm, and they really connected, and they got together. Now, Oscar really didn't like Mr. Morrow at first, and Mr. Morrow talks them into moving to Chicago. And they moved to Chicago right around, October 10th, I think it is, when they go to Chicago. So they go to Chicago, they arrive in Chicago. The first thing that Oscar notices is how there's so many people. He's never seen so many people before, and how it smells, because when you arrive in Chicago back at that time, it was right next to the slaughterhouses, and the slaughterhouses produced a really awful smell. And he actually said that the place smelled like a bunch of skunks that died, and it smelled really awful, and it was really potent. And so when they get there, they're on their way to the Palmer Hotel, and on the way there, he actually runs into this girl, and this girl winds up stealing his luggage. And in the luggage, he's got a badge from his father that had a bullet that was hit it, and there was a mark of a bullet right in the middle of this badge. So he meets this girl, and she kind of steals his luggage. And then they on the way to the Palmer house, and when they're almost there, he actually sees this girl, so he starts following her and leaves his mother behind with Mr. Morrow. And he follows this girl thinking that he's going to run into a group of kids that are like a gang of kids, but instead he follows this little girl to find out that she's alone and she has another kid, and he sees them, and he's about to forget about it, but then he's looking at the sky and it's very orange, and that is because the Chicago fire has been happening since, he came to Chicago. And he winds up meeting this girl and this other boy. What was his name? I forgot the boy's name. But he runs into this little girl and this little boy. Her name is Jenny, and I can't remember the boy's name. But he meets this boy and girl, and he saves them. And they connect, and they're escaping fire, and they're trying to get back to the Palmer Hotel. And then you run into some other characters during this. There's kind of like a subplot other than the fire. And then, there's a bunch of things that happen. I don't want to give away the whole book, but there's a lot of really excellent scenes in this book. This book is intense from beginning to end. It's like you on the farm, it's kind of peaceful, and there's some really interesting stories, but then when you get to Chicago, it's non-stop action. There's even this one part that was really cool. They were on a boat, and there was another boat coming at them that was on fire with nobody driving it, and they had to jump out of the boat and escape. And there's a bunch of parts like that. Now, out of all the books that I've read of this series, this one has been the best one so far. The second best one is this one. I Survived the Revolution of 1776. Both of these were very intense, very engrossing, and I really, really enjoyed both of these very much. And then I've read the other two. Sorry, Layla, I don't mean to squash you. I've read these other two, and these other two are not as intense, but they do have parts that are intense. But these were nowhere near as intense as both of these. Both of these were really gripping. These are the two that I highly recommend. And this is the one that I recently read right now. This is I Survived the Chicago Fire, and it was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. So the next book that I'm going to talk about that I plan on reading next is I Survived the Sinking of the Titanic of 1912. Now, I've read 22 pages of this so far, and this is another one to where it's not intense through most of the story. It really gets intense at the end of the story, and I'm pretty sure that at the end of the story this is going to be really shocking and everything. But right now it's just him being on the Titanic, enjoying himself. He actually got in trouble, and his name is George Codler. And he actually got in trouble for sliding down a banister into a rich lady. And his aunt, which is really nice, was kind of angry with him, but not really. She's a really nice aunt. And yeah, this is at the point I'm at right now. There's not a lot that's happened other than but it's still good writing. I really enjoy her writing, and it's very realistic and very relatable characters in the story. I really enjoy this quite a bit so far, and I'm pretty sure the ending is going to be fantastic. The Titanic sinking is a very famous tragedy that I know quite a bit about, and it's really interesting. As a matter of fact, if you go through my past videos, I did an audio book about the Titanic, and it was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I learned quite a few things from that. So I'm also joining a book club, and in this book club, it's called Book Minded. It's by Eden Ayash. She's the one that created this book club, and it's called Book Minded, and we're reading Wuthering Heights. Now, I've said this again, if you've watched this video again, sorry that I'm repeating myself, but This book I read about a year ago, and I've only read it one time. Now, joining this book club, I reread it for this book club. I'm not counting on the Read What You Own challenge, because I put a rule to myself that I only want to read books that I've read from my challenge. I don't want to count rereads, so I'm not counting this for the challenge, but I reread this book for joining this book club, and when I finished it, I said the same thing that I read it the first time, that this is a book that would be better if you read 2 times in a row, because it will clear up some things, and there's a lot of things happening in this book that's not really complex subject matter, but there's a lot of characters, and they're really interconnected, and reading it the second time, it's so much clearer. And like I said, this is my second time reading this. This is my actually third time, but this is my second time reading this back to back, and this is so much better the second time around. And this is really an awesome piece of literature. It's really wonderful. You've got one of the most manipulative characters of all time. Heathcliff is a big manipulator, and what he does is really incredible in this story. And he can be a very heartless person, man, like I say. And at the same time, he'll fool you because he knows how to smile at you and make you think, oh, he's not so bad. But then this guy really does things that's pretty wicked. So I do recommend Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. Really interesting book. An interesting thing, I've mentioned this before, but not in a couple of videos, is that Emily Brontë died when she was 30 years old. And she had this book published when she was 29. So 1 year before she died, this book came out, and it was not a success at first. And probably because the same thing that I feel like when you read this book, it doesn't really become clear until you read it the second time. And there's a lot of people that would read this one time and not think much of it. But if you read this twice, you'd see this is a really intriguing story, and it's really interesting. And if you like soap operas, this is an excellent soap opera, really. This is a gothic novel, but it's a lot like a soap opera, in a lot of ways. I don't watch a lot of soap operas, but I have watched some of them, and this really reminds me of a soap opera and how all the characters are really connected and all that. So there's that. Now, there's something else that project that I'm doing, is that I'm rereading Fall of the House of the Usher. This is a collection of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, and The Fall of the House of Usher I've now read 5 times. And each time I read this book, each time I read this story, there's a lot of things that start becoming clear. It gets more and more clear the more the times that I'm reading this story, because it's written in a unique writing style that's like not straight to the point. And the way that he words stuff, he'll say something that if you think about it, you could put it in a much simpler way. But his writing style is puts you in a not straightforward type of way. And it's really excellent writing, because you got to think about what he's saying, even though he's saying simpler stuff. And this is actually more complex to read than Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is in very plain language, and there are some words that are some vocabulary that's not for light readers. It's people that that haven't read a lot of books might not understand what a lot of the words mean. And there's a lot of books that I've looked up in Wuthering Heights, but there's a lot of words that I had to look up to find their meaning. Like, there's a lake, and it's called a tarn in this, and stuff like that. But I've read it 5 times, and it's becoming more and more interesting. And my plan is to reread The Fall of the House of the Usher 100 times. Yeah, and each time that I read this story, it becomes creepier and creepier and creepier. Really wonderful. I love it. It's like very gothic and very creepy. Oh, yes, it definitely gets creepy. Okay, and the last thing I want to say is talk about one movie. There's one movie that I recently watched. This is a rewatch, but I really got a kick out of seeing this movie. I haven't seen this in a while, and that is Scary Movie. That's the Wayland brothers that made this movie. I don't know. I think it's 2000 or something like that. But it's a parody on all these horror movies like Scream and a couple other horror movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer. They parody that, and it's really fantastic comedy. But an interesting thing is that I'm watching this on YouTube, and it's cut. And it's weird on what they cut. You know what I mean? There are bad words that you hear watching the cut version, but then there's certain other bad words that they cut out. And there's some sexual explicit stuff that they leave in, and there's other sexually explicit stuff that they leave out. Now, the thing about it, I was able to enjoy this because I'm very familiar with this movie. I've watched this movie a bunch of times, laughed at it a lot of times, but there's a lot of jokes that I wouldn't get if I wasn't familiar with this movie. As a matter of fact, I forgot Ray's character. There's a scene to where he goes into a bathroom and he has something that goes through his ear that they cut out because it's sexually explicit. But then later on, you see him with this like wound that's covered up, and if you never seen the movie uncut, you wouldn't even know why he has this thing over his ear. When and it's pretty funny on the thing that goes through his head. It's really funny because he's listening, then something pops through his ear, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to be explicit. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. So Scary Movie, I do recommend that movie. And it was still fun watching the cut version of it, but at the same time, if you could watch that movie, try to watch it uncut. It's a lot better. So that's it. I'm not going to say much more. I want to thank you for being here. Layla wants to thank you for being here. If you like the video, I said this before, please like the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. It would be wonderful to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I pretty much post a video every 3 days. I've been trying to regulate it to about every 3 days I give you a new video. So if you really enjoy this content, subscribe, come back in 3 days, and you'll see a new video. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Peter the Book Lover, and I want to say you are wonderful for being here. Thank you so much for coming by.